Hey, what's up, universe? It's 9:32 a.m. Central Time on Sunday, September 3rd, 2023. So I wanted to go on a little bit about like blockchain and just creating other applications. There's been some talk that I've seen, with TikTok potentially being banned, and other people are being like, oh, just create another app and all of this kind of a thing. So the way that, the blockchain, regardless of the cryptocurrency, and creating other applications like TikTok, regardless of platform or whatever's being used, what these things share is the internet connectivity, the way the underlying communication and infrastructure that is required to make these things work. So I would like to share with you something for those of you that you may not be aware of called the OSI model. So the OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnection, and it's a framework. And here's a breakdown of it. It's composed of 7 layers. You just go ahead and read this here. So when you take a look at this model, you'll see that there's layer 1, which is the most fundamental level, that's the physical layer, and layer 2, which is the data link layer, which is really closely related to layer 1. They're separate, but they're very close. The third is the network layer, and level 3 is where that BGP protocol lives. That's the layer where it is able to connect other networks to other networks. That's the glue of the internet. So layer 3 is where BGP lives. Layer 4 is the transport layer. This is where most of the kind of fundamental parts of the internet work. BGP is the glue, where it's like, hey, we've got networks, like big networks, and these big networks need to talk to these things. So that's the protocol that's allowing these other giant networks to talk to each other. Most of consumer traffic lives on layer 4, which is going to be, the TCP and UDP traffic. So anything that's done, through the web, FTP, the way this is streamed here, any of that type of stuff is primarily TCP and UDP traffic, and that lives on layer 4. Layer 5 is session traffic, and so that's going to be more about different services like web services, FTP services, let's see, like DNS services, mail services, that type of a thing. And then 6 and 7 are the presentation and application layers, and that's just basically where you can start to encrypt the data, you can start to transform the data, and then layer 7 is the actual application. That's where things kind of end up, right? That's the end result layer, kind of, so to speak. So for the blockchain to work, it requires, it requires all 7 layers to be present. So at layer 3, if BGP were to be disrupted, and this is why those different crypto exchanges were able to be targeted, if layers below are able to be disrupted, then that creates an attack vector for a cryptocurrency or anything else that requires the rest of the layers to work. This is why, anything like the DNS with AWS and that type of a thing. So it's not just cryptocurrencies, but it's anything that requires subsequent layers to work below layer 3, which is pretty much everything. That's why BGP is a giant attack vector. Now, another thing I want to call out for both ideas around creating a TikTok alternative or just cryptocurrencies in general is that regardless, you saw layer 1, that's a physical layer. These physical, at any point in time, at some point, the data is going to have to touch a physical device or physical connection. It's going to have to be transported or transmitted over some type of physical medium, over physical hardware. That hardware is a controlled asset. So there's really, in my mind, there's really no way to create a free, so to speak, system, because all of those physical channels of communications are controlled and protected and regulated and owned. Even if we were, as a society or a species, able to create alternative hardware that is open to us, I say us, and outside of the normal channels of control, there's ways to disrupt those. So just letting people know that as people think about like cryptocurrencies and alternative ways to kind of get around the system, so to speak, the physical communication channels, that's really where we would have to start. And that's an infrastructure that is more than, it's a massive undertaking. This is not a small task. It is not trivial in its pursuit. So I just wanted to put that out there. It may be disheartening to some, yet it is actually a legitimate thing, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about it, and I thought I'd put it out there for you. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.